Hi everyone, Wade Curtis here, the founder of Curtis Property Group. Today I just want to talk about the 2017-18 federal budget that was delivered last week, but more specifically surrounding the property changes in the property space. So what I want to drill down into in a short 4 or 5 minutes is there was only 4 or 5 changes, but the biggest one, I suppose, or the biggest debate or the discussion in the marketplace is affordability and how can first home buyers afford to buy their own home. Now, the government made some changes in terms of allowing first home buyers to now salary sacrifice $15,000 a year into superannuation and a maximum of $30,000. Over a couple of years. So what that means is that going into superannuation, you're only paying, or salary sacrificing into super, you're only paying 15% tax in that environment, where you might be on your taxable income of $80,000 a year, and let's just say you're on 32 cents in the dollar in tax. So you've got a tax saving to get pre-tax dollars and put into super to be able to only pay 15% tax instead of 32 cents in the dollar. So what it's allowing you to do is save more money a little bit faster because you're not paying the tax, and also that money in super is invested, so hopefully you're getting a return on that money that you're putting in there, and you're able to then pull that money out and use it for your deposit for your first home. So that's in a nutshell how it works. Now, what do I think about that? I think it's a great start. I don't think it's going to have a significant benefit to people living in Sydney and Melbourne because the median house price in Sydney, for example, is $950,000 to $1 million, and Melbourne is not that far behind it either. So to be able to buy a property in those markets, obviously you need a greater deposit. So by the time you're salary sacrificing into super to save your deposit, property prices may well have gone up as well. So, it's going to be a little bit harder. But in other markets, for example, Perth, median house price at $500,000, half that of Sydney. You've got Brisbane, which is still an affordable market, and you've also got Adelaide. So people that live in those markets using the first home buyers grant and saving scheme in super are going to be able to save a deposit because they don't need to save as much as someone buying into the Sydney market, for example. So I don't think it's going to have an even impact across Australia. That's what I'm getting to there. So that's one change. Another one is in the foreign investment market. So let's say a developer in Australia develops a high-rise apartment unit. Now, they were originally allowed to sell 100% of that development to foreign investors or foreign buyers. Yeah, foreign investment. So now the government have changed that and only allowing them to sell 50% of a development to the Chinese. So what that means for us is that 50% gets sold locally and goes to Australian buyers, so people that live in Australia. So what that's doing is really feeding the demand and putting supply into the market over here, rather than foreign investors buying them. Whilst I'm on the foreign investment side of things, there was another little change for foreign buyers that they either live in Australia and only live here for 6 months of the year, or they don't live here at all and they're investing here. They're leaving their properties. A lot of them are leaving their properties vacant. They're not leasing them out or renting them out. So the government have gone on to that and saying, well, we're going to charge them now a tax if they leave their property vacant longer than 6 months. So they're going to get charged a vacancy tax, to be able to try and get them to lease them out and create obviously more supply for the Australian people and obviously the markets and the demand in Australia for rentals. So I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good change. The other one on investment side, or there's a couple of small ones for property investors that they need to consider, and one of them was the travel expenses to go and view a property or inspect your investment property were tax deductible. Your travel expenses, you'll be able to offset it against your taxable income. Now the government is saying, well, too many people were rorting the system and using that tax deduction to be able to go for a holiday or a recreational use, more so than inspecting the property. So what they've decided to do is abolish that from 1st of July 2017. So you cannot claim travel expenses to go and view a property from July 17. So that's not a big game changer, really. I don't think that's going to have too much impact. The other one for investors is plant and equipment. Some of the depreciationable items have been removed for subsequent buyers. So plant and equipment is like dishwashers, ovens, just the smaller components to an investment property that obviously wear and tear a lot faster than the actual structure of the building. So what they're saying is in the depreciation schedules that if that house was on sold, the next buyer could claim some of those deductions, and sometimes they were getting claimed 2 or 3 times. So now what they're saying is if you buy a second-hand property, those items won't be deductible to that purchaser. So if you buy brand new, you've obviously got those deductions because you actually bought them, you actually put them in. So no big game changer there either, really, minor changes. So yeah, so that's those ones. The other one was the government giving an incentive to the baby boomers, or plus 65, to sell their family home and downsize into a smaller home, leaving the bigger homes for the younger generation coming through. And to do that, they've incentivised them by, out of the sale of the house, they're able to sink $300,000 straight into their superannuation fund, which is not going to go on and above the cap. So they're not going to get penalised by putting more money into the superannuation environment. So, but the impact that it may have, and this is where you might need to get some financial advice if this is you, is that you might have been eligible to claim the pension before doing that, and then once you've sold your home, put some money into super, sort of forms a part of the the assets test and the means testing. So it may eliminate you from being able to get the pension. So you need to consider that. Also, you've got the selling cost to get out of your principal place of residence, and you've also got real estate commissions. And then when you downsize and you buy a smaller place, you've still got stamp duty going in. So I don't believe that that's going to be an option for most people. I wouldn't have thought, because at the moment the family home doesn't really form part of the assets test. So the equity sitting in there. So that's something to consider if that's you, going into retirement or looking at doing that option. Just make sure you get good financial advice and make sure you tick all the boxes before you actually do it. That's for sure. That's it. That's the 5 changes that the main changes in the property space. I hope that's put some perspective on it for you and answered a few questions. But just remember, just make sure you get some help. Reach out, get expert advice, whatever you want to do. And as always, if you're looking to build wealth in property, please contact us at info@curtispropertygroup.com.au. Follow us on Facebook or YouTube, and you'll get all these videos and updates and so forth along the way. Have a great day.